Hello. Today I'm going to talk about how to create data classes in Ruby. There are two ways to create a data class, and I'm going to explore some differences between them and maybe draw some conclusions about when to use one and when to use the other one. So there are two ways to create a data class in Ruby. I will call this block definition and inheritance definition. So you can create a new data class using this, for example, response equal, data define do, or you can use the inheritance class response inherits from data define. What's the difference? Well, one of the differences is that when you're using the block definition versus the inheritance definition, you might see that in case of inheritance, there is an anonymous class that takes care of this inheritance. This is not specific to data class. This is also it's happening, for example, when you are doing the same thing with struct. And you see here, I did almost the same examples, but with struct and the anonymous class, it's also there. There is also another difference when you are assigning a block to a variable versus a constant. So you see here that the first example, I assigned the result of data define block to a constant, and you see that now it has a name, but when I assign it to a variable, it does not have a name. So when you assign the data class to a constant, the name is set, and when you're not assigning it to a variable, then you're creating a class that has no name, an anonymous kind of, let's say, class. This is true for struct also, so it's not very specific to data class. And now let's go back to a second difference. What about the block definition when we're trying to create a nested data inside? Which one do you think we should call rate limit? Should we call it like response rate limit or just simple rate limit? If we execute this, then you might see that if we're trying to call response rate limit, this does not work. It will give us name error, and we have to actually call directly the rate limit. And this is happening because blocks does not introduce a new scope. So here is another example here when I'm creating some blocks and I define the retries constant inside, and you see that if I try to query it via response rate limit retries, it does not work, nor it does work with response retries. And then you see that then this block, it defines the retries in the outer scope, the total outer scope of this file. So if you want to define constant inside data classes, you should use inheritance. So if I want to achieve the same thing, I should use the inheritance definition. And now I can call response rate limit retries. And of course, the other ones are not working. One more thing about this is like maybe you have the question which option to choose, the block or the inheritance. Well, I cannot tell you which one is good. I can tell you that if we look in the documentation, the block definition is used in docs.rubylang.org. But if you don't plan to add too many extra methods, it is so simple to define it with using this block method. It's one single line. But if you're starting to add methods to it, then you will of course have an extra end. And actually, when looking at the code, it does not make too big of a difference between those two in terms of line of code or the amount of characters that you need to read. And one last thing before we go, redefining the initializer. So just a quick thing about the redefining the initializer. Maybe you want to redefine the initializer like I did here. And if you're redefining it with keyword arguments, this will work. But if you're trying to redefine the initializer with positional arguments, this will not work. You will see that it will give you an error message that is about argument error. And it does not work even if you try to give it positional or keyword arguments here. And this is pretty well documented on the data class in the RubyLang, and it says here that measure initialize always should receive keyword arguments. This is it for today about how to define data classes. I hope you have fun with it. You can read the longer article about this on my own blog. You have the address here. And of course, I invite you to subscribe to Short Ruby for more short videos like this. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.